I think you're on mute.
Good day, everyone. Myself, Rashita Anyavada from MBA Tech C first year.
I am Krijunija from MBA Tech Data Science first year. We would like to welcome you all to today's Fireside discussion on cybersecurity.
Domino's. Everyone in the room has probably heard of this name, and it's a place where we've done numerous transactions. However, do you recall the cyber attack that occurred in May 2021? It exposed the personal information of over a million people. Cybersecurity experts were instrumental in bringing it under control.
It takes around 20 years to develop a reputation and a few minutes of cyber incident to destroy it. A quote that our guest speaker today.
Mr. Karan Dubey, our today's guest, is an NMIMS alumnus who works at Microsoft as a product security executive. Mr. Karan has aided a number of Fortune 100 companies in developing and maturing the cybersecurity and privacy postures. He has worn many hats along the way, including cybersecurity, privacy-led solution advisor, product manager, security manager, IT-led auditor, and many more major responsibility roles. He has a prolific professional experience in some of the biggest multinational organizations. Now, I'd like to welcome Mr. Karan. So, sir, how are you feeling today?
Thank you, team. Thank you for the warm welcome and the words. It's really a great feeling to coming back to where you have all started your journey. I think I can relate when I was in the same place since I think 2012, 8 years back before that. So it's a great feeling to be here and again to talk about and interact with the youngsters and understand how cyber can take them to do wonders.
Sir, welcome you back. So, sir, what is cybersecurity?
Got it. So I will like to explain it in a very simpler manner, right? Basically, cybersecurity, before going on to cybersecurity, right? From an organization perspective and also from an individual perspective, right? We have a lot of assets which has a value comes out of it. If I talk about, let's say, our homes, our cars, right, or any asset which we own, right, there is a value related to it, and to protect it from any malicious or unauthorized attempt, we need to protect it. Let's say I have an house, right, or anyone have house, anyone have cars or any assets, right, they have locks to it. So the objective of locks to a major objective of that locks or any mechanism is to protect it from any unauthorized access. Similarly, when I talk about cybersecurity is a practice which primarily focus on digital and cyber footprint to protect organization, their assets, with use of technology mechanisms, people process technology to protect the CIA. So when I say CIA is basically confidentiality, integrity, and availability. These are three pillars for anything who wants to understand information security. And the major objective of cybersecurity is to protect CIA of any organization, any individual, or any asset. So that's where cybersecurity comes into and play. And when again we talk about cybersecurity, it's a very vast and vicious domain where there are multiple subdomains which taps to a particular area to protect cyber and overall taps to the umbrella of cybersecurity.
You explained it very well, sir. So, sir, what does effective cybersecurity look like to you? Means, how do you measure it?
So when you talk about measure, right, there is something called itself in the cyber domain. It's basically GRC. And again, it's one of the very booming domain. From an abbreviation point of view, GRC is governance, risk, and compliance. And when we talk about business, it's all about talking of the numbers, revenues, which is end objective for any C-suite or any organization to focus on. So just to impact, just to look at from an effective cybersecurity, it's again a function of multi domains. If I talk about the primary area to look at from a GRC point of view, and which is governance, risk, and compliance. And if I have to keep it any simpler manner, how can I bridge the gap from a visibility point of view? What I can look, I can take care of. So to enhance the length and breadth from a visibility point of view, it's very important for our for us or professionals or any organization to understand the length and breadth from a visibility point of view. Once you understand what is a land of play where I can play, I can put people, processes, and systems to take care of that, and I can have a better monitoring over it. So if you in 1 minute, it's to achieve a greater kind of an monitoring, greater length of monitoring.
So, sir, according to you, how can identity theft can be prevented?
Great question, Krish. I think, right, we these days we hear a lot of fraud happens on identity theft. Let's say if I talk about uh, one from a phishing point of view, one from we heard about a lot of these OTP fraudsters, which calls the individuals asking them their OTP or PII, personal identifier information. So the one way is to be educate, right? To be educated about what's happening. If not thoroughly, but to understand what can go wrong. And one of the best ways to always verify. We are in a world where information is constantly changing. Data is the new fuel, and everyone is behind that data. It might be ours or it might be any other person. And again, the motives comes from an unauthorized and malicious attempt point of view. So they can gain information based on some in terms of monetary or any kind of a motivation. It can to harm to a certain individual reputations as well, which in starting we have talked about, right? Reputation of businesses. So the one way is to read more about it and to secure your systems. One is these days we have multi-factor authentication, where we have to multiple ways to prove our identity that we are the legitimate user who are trying to access the system's resources. It may be, let's talk about our social networking platform, Instagram, Google, Facebook, right? We have that option which can give us a leverage where we can protect ourselves by having multi-factor and two-factor authentication. So let's say if someone has your password, right? You have a primary device which is authorized decision maker to, let's say, I am a legitimate user or I want that second factor authentication. That's one way. The other way is, first of all, don't put too many identifier in the social or public domain. When I talk about why I do that, so identity theft itself is basically when someone tries to use your personal information, and then using that they try to um, imitate you as an individual or genuine user and try to gain access to your systems. So let's say if I am an hacker or XYZ person hacker, he can go and explore the social networking platform, right? They can locate into your date of birth, their phone number, and any other additional address. Let's say if I talk about the Domino's hack, which went last year, right? From that point of view, a lot of information is available on dark web, which is again a social constant where your ATM number, your credit card number, CVV number, these details are available on dark web. So hackers use this to do identity theft. That's why to prevent it, we need to have a two-factor authentication first of all, which can prevent the probability of that event to occur. And the other factor is to educate ourselves. And when I talk about educate, a lot of forums are there which talks about government is taking and regulatory is taking various actions. If I talk about Indian government also do a lot of ads, advertisement these days, which talks about how frauds are happening and what are the ways they can protect themselves from that.
So you explained this identity theft very nicely. So, can you describe a situation in which you discovered a vulnerability in a company server? What steps did you take to remedy that issue?
So I will explain it in a different manner, not exactly from the vulnerability point of view, but so first let me talk about, when you talk about from technology exploitation point of view, or identifying security level vulnerability in from a security testing point of view. So there is itself a framework or a detailed process which is basically takes place when you identify vulnerability across technology systems or any systems where you have to identify vulnerabilities, right? It always starts with discovery. And when I talk about discovery, the approach which I am talking about, these category itself comes in security testing and cybersecurity. where we basically works on the system to understand, are there any vulnerabilities, how we can exploit it, and once we identified exploitation, what are the remediation and mitigation measure to tackle it. So from that point of view, in security testing, it always starts with discovery, where we understand the first point which I talk about, right? Observe how good I am in observing the systems from a monitoring point of view. So I do this discovery to understand what is the length and breadth of that system. If I talk about server itself, it may be a part of any network. If I talk about organization networks, which has firewalls, switches, and all, and it is a part of an corporate network where it's connected to it. So in order to access it, someone has to understand first the complete environment, how it's connected, what is a topology of that, how it's communicating to firewall and other people are communicating to it. Once I have that, once I know these are the assets which are connected to it, once I know the visibility, then I go and start looking for the weak link in the complete system. Let's say if I have to talk about, right, if I have to take advantage of any system or from a weakness, I have to understand what is a link in that. Based on, once you identified set of 4 or 5 weak links in the system, then we prioritize it and we go about where can we exploit it. Let's say if I talk about weak authentication systems, when I talk about weak authentication systems, let's say we provide our username and password to authenticate, right? uh, there is a very so this is not this is a kind of vulnerability, but not does not exist now anymore. The passwords are in plain text in the database. Let's say if a username or if a password are stored as a plain text in a database, right? And if by any chance someone has access to that database, what can go wrong? We can think of it, right? It has all the PI data, your passwords, your username, your profile, all detail, and these can be used now to do any kind of a malicious attempt from any portals, any applications, or any critical systems. So the best way is to, let's which organization use, they basically hash passwords. They even don't encrypt it, because when I encrypt the password in database, right, if let's say someone has access to that database, but again if they have an access to the encryption key, they can decrypt that. So that's the best way. What is password is, it's hashed and salt. When I talk about salting is if I talk about encryption, salting is just to add additional characters to a string. Let's say my name is Karan, right? I will add few more strings to give it in a strong context. Let's say Karan ABCD123. Now it's a bigger string, and then now I will hash it. So hash generates different signatures, which is irreversible. So based on that, the database security or authentication security is protected, and there are many more ways to do it, and so on and so forth. There are different ways, different forums, and different ways to mitigate different attacks that is taken care. But the process starts with exploration. Then we identified weak systems, and then we look for the vulnerabilities and their respective remediation mechanisms.
So as you said about two-step verification, so people are not aware of cybercrimes that happen. So how would you introduce them to cybersecurity and be more aware and updated?
Okay, great question, Krish. I think I talked about it earlier, right? Government is these days taking a lot of initiatives for the basically individuals to make them updated towards the cyber frauds. A lot of news letters and articles, newspapers also cover a lot of frauds happening across globe and across India, which basically focuses on what is happening in the cyber domain, what are the various ways when individual can protect it from them, and not just in organization, governments. A lot of organizations. If you talk about, let's say, BFSI industry, right? We have our bank account. We frequently receives advisory from our bank or our respective institutions, right? What are the various ways when you can use your account in a secure manner? Don't share your OTP, always use two-factor authentication, or never give your password and never give your OTP to any bank executive, which covers a lot of security aspect which needs to be dealt with in that area specifically, because again, because that's their responsibility to educate their users as well, because again, they are doing a lot to protect them internally, putting a lot of efforts, a lot of systems in place to protect the entire ecosystem, right? But again, in order to take one more step, they are doing is an awareness, where they basically runs a lot of campaigns on cyber awareness campaigns, security fraud awareness campaigns, where they educate a lot of users who are attached to them, to basically give them a lot of information on cyber aspect. And one more thing is, which is happening, is a lot of forums are there, and a lot of organizations are conducting these cyber trainings now for their employees, employee-wide training, which is a part of mandatory training now. And even a lot of college institutions have started doing this, which again focuses on various domains from a general flavor of what happens in cyber, what cyber looks like, what are the various ways user can look to have a secure ecosystem on, or secure identity in the digital platform.
So now we have talked about cybersecurity is and what is done to prevent cyber attacks. So, if you were a cyber criminal, how would you try to gain access to the data?
If I am a cyber criminal, how will I do it? Okay. So first off, I haven't done that. But yeah, so it's so basically, when I talk about like having an unauthorized access to any system, right, I have to understand the mindset. If I take a step back, right, before having access to any system, I have to understand what are the various ways, or let's say not ways, right, but what is a mindset motive. So if I have to access any system from any point of view, right, I need to have a motive. So basically what bad guys does, they have a motive. And when I talk about these motives, right, motives can be very much from an number point of view. Let's say it's very much money oriented. Let's someone wants money, so they do these kinds of things. The other is like, if someone wants to harm reputation, which basically is also one of the bigger impact, because these days what happens, right, if cyber criminal or any organization which are involving in these kinds of scenario, there is a very boomer concept, everyone is asking for bitcoins now. An organization has to pay bitcoins, otherwise they freeze their data, they crash their data. And again, we all know data is the new fuel. So again, when I map data with the numbers, it has a huge revenue exponent growth over there. So I haven't done any kind of that way, but again, it starts with exploring the systems. And when you talk about exploring the systems, I will talk about same. I have to look from what assets are there, what are the weaknesses are there, and then I have to tap on the weakest link. One of the great way which I can talk about, right, whenever I'm not sure if you are know about this, but when in our browser, right, when we look any web page, we can inspect element just to understand how the layout is being created, what division they are using, is how password is going on. So we can just understand what technologies they are using. Let's say if it's an HTML page, CSS is JavaScript, what code are there. Once I know, right, I can do certain kind of an research just to understand what is the technology landscape. And then once you know, right, these are my pointers, you understand, are there any existing vulnerabilities in this platform? Let's say if I'm talking about JavaScript or Angular JS, or let's say any kind of an Apache server, are there any vulnerability? So recently there was Log4j. I'm not sure if you are aware of. So that was a very biggest open source vulnerability, which organizations have taken a lot of effort to mitigate it. So that's where comes in. Then when this kind of vulnerability comes into in place, right, a lot of organizations or promoters of that technology gives an remediation steps, because the researcher works around that to give the remediation to protect the organization. What are the ways they can fix it? I hope I have answered your query, but not on the specific attack part, but linking to that.
So, as you mentioned about cyber risks, so how do you handle cyber risks from vendors and third parties applications?
Great question, Krish. So Krish, before going on specifically on third party risk or cyber posture from a third party point of view, let me give you a dissection of from the cyber point of view. When there is always a two angle to any domain, one is specifically focusing on technology side, where you go, you understand technology. It's hardcore technology oriented. The second part is process oriented, or let's say procedure oriented. So when I talk about these, all the prior parts which we talked about, right? Security testing, doing testing, understanding what is the length of breadth, doing testing, exploiting systems. These comes in a technology part, which is a security testing part. When I talk of process part, the GRC part, which we spoke of, right? Governance, risk, and compliance. The major objective is to identify risk rating, and it's one of the biggest domain in risk management for a cyber risk management. The second part is from the certifications point of view, where procedure comes in, like how good you are. Because if let's say I'm talking to any organization, right? I can't make it out how good they are from a security point of view. That's where various regulatories and certification body comes in. They do a regular audit on annual basis, on 6 monthly basis, where they go, they understand, they assess, and they give a certification to the organization. Let's say widely used certification is ISO 27001. It's just got revamped a month back, but yeah, it's one of the very widely used certification, which talks about the posture of an organization across multiple domains. Again, which you talk about how access is secured in an organization, how data is protected, what kind of a mechanism they do use, what kind of network they use. Certain clauses, parameters are covered, and organizations are certified on that basis, right? So from this point of view, we cover both these parameters, from a process point of view, from a technology point of view. We basically, if I have to understand the third party cyber risk posture, one is basically we understand what are the certifications they have undergone, which is ISO 27001. The other one, if they are working in, let's say, very critical data, let's say financial data, and also banking industry ask for PCI DSS, because they are playing around with card data, CCV data, or that kind of financial data, sensitive data. That's why where comes they look for a PCCI DSS kind of in compliance, and how you are compliant to that. That is one check to look at. The second check is basically to understand from the security testing point of view, right? If an organization, are they doing it on continuous basis? There is again a report out of it, which is basically a consumption model for the auditors, consumption model for the investors who want to invest in that company. They have to look at, like, what is the length and breadth of your third party providers, how many third party you have. Let's say if I have a primary organization, right, one, and they have, let's say, 30 or 40 third party providers, right? How they are managing them, what is the standard operating procedure across that. And again, when I talk about that, how they are good from their cyber posture. So these three checks are there, which is again, which we talked of, right? Certifications, security testing reports. After that, there are discussions just to understand if there are any prior and top up queries on that, where we go, we also do, let's say, kind of a simulation testing to understand whatever is in the underside report, it's legitimate. And based on that, one last thing which comes into and play from a contract point of view, and again, just to absorb the liability from in cyber damage or cyber insurance, a lot of organization take cyber insurance these days. So like we have insurance, right? So a lot of companies have starting providing cyber insurance now, to basically over limit and to help any kind of a breach which happens from a cyber point of view. Again, it's very difficult. There are very contractual terms and conditions to qualify and to claim that. But yeah, a lot of organizations are using cyber insurance as one of the mitigating way to limit the penalties on that. And a lot of organizations put a lot of SLA and clauses in that. If I talk about, if a data breach happens on a third party side, they are liable to pay this amount, or brand reputation in that terms.
That was quite interesting, sir. And if the audience have some questions regarding cybersecurity, they can put up in the live chat. Till then, sir, you have been a part of Deloitte and EY. So how is it like to work in two of the big fours?
I will say it was pretty much great, and the learning curves when you talk about these big fours, right? Specifically EY and Deloitte, which these two before. The learning curve is quite exponential. And the way I look at it, right, it's not very a monotonous kind of in work. I started my journey as a management consultant in 2017 with EY, and I think from then now onwards, I've learned a lot, specifically in cyber, specifically in technology domain, and that's just because of one more reason, that I have uh, uh, what I say, I have a huge interest in technology, to understand how technology works, because I believe technology is a great way to solve a lot of problems which we will be having, or which we already have. So that's the way. But yeah, from a learning curve point of view, these big fours gives you a lot of exposure. And talking from my experience, I think I have done a lot of engagements focus globally, majorly globally. I've done few of engagements in India, but major engagements I've done globally, specific in APAC, Europe, and Middle East market.
So, sir, looking at cyber crimes happening around us, so what are some measures we should take to protect our data and maintain privacy on the web?
Nice. So from this point of view, right, the one way is basically I look into it. Let's say if I'm using Facebook and Google, thanks to all the product managers who are taking a lot of effort to make product more unique and user friendly, right? I know if I talk about Google and Facebook or any social networking platform, these days all platform have their security advisories or advices, right? Which basically looks into different verticals. It's how secure is your password, how have you integrated or have you opted for two-factor authentication or not, have you read the terms and conditions of it. So first of all, platform level advisories on whichever platform you are, try to understand that what they are suggesting it, because they have done it through, like, they know what are the security measures, they do a lot of checks on that. So first one is that. The second one is, well, always use strong password. I know password is pain for all. We have a lot of platforms. It's not easy to remember all those passwords. Never use your birth dates, names, loving one names in your password. That's are easily guessable. And if I can advise one thing, is always invest in a good password manager that pays off, that written is worth on. Because if I talk about a lot of passwords, it's very difficult to manage it as of now. While there are multiple systems, you can have biometrics, you can have two-factor authentication, but again, no one wants to go into that chain, right? I forgot password, I am keep changing it while the functionality is there. So always invest in a good password manager. That helps a lot. The second one is, if you are using personal system, always invest on good antivirus systems. And when I say good antivirus can be from any, it can be a first party tool, it can be a second party tool, but it keeps your device secure. When I say device secure, because these days we route to multiple sites and we don't know what is embedded in which site. And the freemium model which we are focusing on, right, for OTT consumption and all, where we go and we look for, let's say, if I have to look for a content or any web series, I will go and first check, if I don't have a subscription, where is freely available. But always remember, whenever the free data is on the internet, there are repercussions to it. Something is attached to it we might not be aware of. This happens majorly in organization sector. That's why, because the value and crown jewel from that point of view, asset liability is more. At an individual level, it's also, let's say if I talk about, you use a lot of banking application on your personal devices, you do internet banking, you do a lot of other stuff from a personal finance point of view. Let's say if malicious agent sits on your device, right, which you are not aware of, which is continuously sending your information to the hacker, right, what can go wrong. So that is also one of the good way to look at a good password manager and antivirus solution. And then advisories are always there. You can read more about it. The more you read, the more you will be secured.
Yes, sir. And so, as I understood what you told now. So, I'm curious about, you're currently working at Microsoft. So, what exactly is your job profile and what has been your experience while working at Microsoft?
Okay, so I have done, so I started working in 2017. So I kept my purpose intact. I wanted to be in cybersecurity, and I was doing a lot of things from a technology transformation in cyber only. So keeping my purpose intact, that I wanted to be in cyber and my vision is to be in cyber, I played around various role into the cyber just to understand actually how business and different verticals work. I started with being a management consultant, I think in 2017, where I worked for in a big four for around about 4.5 years, understanding, helping clients doing different kind of helping them to build their security posture, if I can explain it in an easier manner, where I was working across a lot of big fours. Even startup, I worked for a few startups as well, where I was helping them to setting up their cyber practice. So from there I've understand, right, from a life from an consulting background is pretty much different, and from actually from an execution point of view little much different. And I wanted to go into deep of it, because when I talk about from an advisory background, it's we understand, we recommend, and we don't go till the impact or end of it. By a lot of execution happens on that side as well, which is of an implementation aspect, but I never got that opportunity from an implementation point of view. That's why I thought uh, it will be great for me to move into the product side of it, where as it's a product company which basically works into these domains, which is from a cybersecurity point of view, which Microsoft does. So that was the major motivation. And my current role is basically I look into an CDOC side from a Microsoft, which is Cyber Defense Operations Center, where we look into different security operations and protects Microsoft.
Okay, sir. And sir, you see, as you told that you were management consultant, and now you're working in the Microsoft as a security manager. Sir, many people switch from technical to management, and you have done the opposite. So, what was the motivation behind the switch?
So I haven't done the opposite. Actually, I am doing what an MBA tech supposed to do. So it's basically I bridged. I think on that front, I think MBA tech is one of the great course if you are looking to be on the both side, from a management side and from a technology side, which is actually bridge that gap. And I think this is a vision. I think coming down the years, these kind of profile are very much required, where someone who can bridge that gap, who can understand technology very well, which basically lays the foundation, and then execute it at from a management point of view or from a managerial skill point of view. Because we can plan, everyone can plan, but execution needs to be immaculate. So that comes when you understand the ground and deep level knowledge of it. So for me on that side, I was pretty much convinced that I wanted to take this route in technology or cyber domain as well. But again, keeping that purpose intact, I learned around in MBA Tech and lot of new things after while I was working, right? So that is a best way to look at your career path, where you understands technology as well, or and management as well. So I am not into fully technology, but it's a combination of which MBA Tech the purpose is.
So, sir, as you mentioned about antivirus, so how effective are third-party antivirus that are available in the market? Are they really required for us?
So I think we discussed this, right? Irrespective of its third party or if it's first party, as long as you are opting for a good antivirus, good license model. And again, when I talk about antivirus, it's a service model, right? We have to understand what service we are opting for. There are various flavors. If let's say if I am taking an high end model of an antivirus, what are the features they are giving? So I have to understand what are the use case I want to have that antivirus. Let's say these days antivirus helps you to achieve secure browsing as well. They prevent us from a lot of ad targeting which happens on our browser, right? We can see a lot of unrelated ads which are not related to us, or let's say a lot of extensions which get automatically downloaded in the system. Chances are there why those malicious systems or malicious items on your browser can download any malicious file on a system, right? So from that point of view, irrespective of third party or first party, it's always a good idea to invest in good antiviruses. A lot of are there, and I think these days all the antiviruses works on AI and ML kind of a technology. So the system or the agent itself running on your system learns a lot about the behavior of your system, which is are moving around.
Ways in which we are preventing the cyber attacks in a frame. So, what are the biggest cybersecurity threats right now? Means we have the prevention from them, but what are the biggest threats right now?
So from an organization perspective or from an individual perspective?
From an individual perspective.
The individual perspective, I think one of the greater concern itself in the cyber threat is phishing. We know, right? Whenever we open our inbox, we can see a lot of phishing. You won XYZ lottery, you won certain things that way. And even so, phishing is still a bigger concern. While it's getting more and more sophisticated, the hackers are finding in creative ways to phish users. So phishing is again a bigger concern. And again, if we wanted to tackle this, the greater way is to, while we can put any system in the place, right, which can automatically identify phishing, which can talks about, let's say, AI engine. Let's say you open an email. For example, I'm talking about, let's say, what which can happen in future. Let's say you are opening an email. Sometime Google also recommend us, right? This is spam, or this is the user is not a known user. It might be malicious. It says also in the product, right? But also after looking at that, people do and click just on the cure. What is this? So I think the more we are educated towards it, right, it will be easier to tackle this concern. From an organization point of view, also phishing is very big concern, and it impacts from our revenue a lot. Because what is a major objective of phishing is, if I talk about it, someone tries to steal your data and personal information, which is username, your password, or any critical data, just so he or she can use it to achieve some decisive motives, which can be harm you or have an unauthorized access to the system, which are illegitimate access to the systems. The one. So it's very important to be educated. The second is, I think post COVID, everyone moved into an work from home or a hybrid kind of an environment. Prior to that, the organization landscape was pretty much different, because we were working from office. Everyone was under intranet connected, sticking under firewall and all. But now I think it's when say it's a trend of vocation. Everyone is working from somewhere else. Someone might be working from Goa, someone working from anywhere in the country, right? So in that case, how do we protect our employees from these kinds of an attack? Let's say you are working on an open Wi-Fi, you're working from Starbucks. How I can ensure the Wi-Fi I'm using in Starbucks is secure? It's not intercepting my information, or someone is not connected to that Wi-Fi and intercepting what I'm doing. Let's say I'm doing some chat, I'm doing some transaction, right? So organization plays a major role these days to preventing it and tapping it, and a lot of investment is happening on hybrid technologies. Specifically, if I talk about VPN and a lot of more agent, which is EDR systems, endpoint detection response, these kind of systems, which basically protects a user device. And then again, a lot of feature functionalities and technology systems comes in, where they try to protect their user, which we talk of, right? Two-factor authentication, biometrics, and those kinds of mitigated mechanisms to prevent attacks. Over to you guys. I hope I have.
So as you have an immense,
Yeah, Krish.
so as you have an immense experience in this field and have been associated with this community for a very long time. So can you please share your experience now, how this community, entire community has developed over the time?
Okay, so are you looking specific from a cyber community point of view, right? I just wanted to understand your question, right?
Yes, sir.
Got it. So I think the community itself is evolving much, and the major reason itself in the community is people are coming together to share knowledge. And I believe the more you share, the more you grow. And I think cyber is a domain where it's a teamwork actually, right? If someone knows something, right, and he helps the other person to basically disseminate that knowledge to that person, the both grows. And in terms of cyber is the only domain where teamwork is very much important, to understand how my team works. And again, it's a bonding kind of an environment where we needs to be 24/7 to be aware of, right, what can go wrong. And again, just to understand how good your team is plays a very pivotal and important role in that. So and from the community point of view, community is doing a lot of great works. I think a lot of free workshops, a lot of uh, uh, professionals who have done a lot of contributed a lot of in cyber. They are doing this, they are taking this initiative to educate users, not just from who are looking to make career or who want to step into cyber, but also just from a general approach point of view, how cyber looks like, what they can do. And again, we know like cyber is breaches are increasing day by day, right? Hackers are getting more and more in numbers. So how, what we can do? So a lot of professionals and a lot of organizations, NGOs are taking a lot of efforts to build these committees. People are coming together to basically educate everyone, and so on and so forth.
So there's a question from the audience. Actually, there's a lot of confusion on how we as students should start our career. What is better, like startups or MNCs for starting a career, and both in internships as well as full-time job?
Uh, great question, I think, Darshita. So if I have to answer this, right, I will take a step back and I will ask, right, what is your vision? If you have to go with any kind of an organization, it's okay, but you have to be very much clear about your vision, where you see yourself or what you want it to do. It's okay, right? Whatever you try, and based on that you comes up that I want, this is not working out, but you have to be pretty much clear what is you are looking at it. Let's say if I talk about from a technology point of view, correct, if I'm talking about cyber, currently let's keep MNC and startup separate, right? So let me clear that. If I have to understand first of all where I am good at, let's say I am a very technology person, I can tackle or I can tap back into technology very easily. So that is my strength or an advantage, which will give me an edge, or any professional or any student on that case, right? Then he can learn on further things because he is confident and he's secured that domain itself as a competency that I am very good at it. Now I can explore it, right? What happens, like say if you are not clear about it, right, then at least make yourself clear that I want to learn at least one or two things at a time and make them a competency. Once it's, again, it's, if I'm talking about cyber, let's say if you want to take a security testing route, a lot of security testing certifications are there. One is CEH, which is Certified Ethical Hacker from EC Council, which basically focuses on, am I audible? I think my video is freezed. Hello. Hello.
Am I audible?
Yeah, Krish, you're audible. Am I audible? I think there was some technical glitch. Am I audible now?
Yes, sir, you
Can
are
you?
audible. Yes, sir, you are
Cool.
audible now.
I'm not
Sir,
sure till
sir,
where you
as you
have
said,
heard.
no, sir, you are audible. Yes, sir, I've heard.
But Krish, I think you're on mute.
So am I audible?
Yeah, Darshita, you're audible. I'm not sure till where you heard. I think there was some technical glitch and we
Yes,
went
so
off
there
for a
was a
while.
technical glitch. Can you please repeat about what you said? Because there was a glitch, I guess.
I'm not sure till where you have heard me. So if you can link me, or I can repeat it, no problem.
Yes, sir, you can please repeat it, sir.
Cool. So what I'm talking about, you should be always clear of what technical, what path you want to be. I was talking about just to be clear about where you want to, either you want to tap into technology, you want into be a techno manager skill, or you want to be a pure play management domain expert or management domain professional. That needs to be very clear of and build competencies around that. Putting a cyber across, cyber is, again, there are various domain. If you want to make your career in cyber, cyber is a very broad, bigger umbrella with have multiple niches to it, which is still growing. Let's say if I talk about one is, which is focusing on specifically security testing part, which is primarily from a hacker point of view. ethical hacker. The one of the leading certification is from a EC Council is certified ethical hacker. It's an intermediate level kind of a certification. You can prepare for it, where they basically teach about everything from infrastructure, from technology point of view. What are the steps 1, 2, 3, 4 to have an access to system, how to break it, how to mitigate it, all those kinds of a nomenclature in that course, which is it's a curriculum which is, I think, which takes around 1, 2 or 3 months to go through it, and then you can apply for certification. The other one is if you are, let's say, looking for to make career in something from a process related or specifically strategy kind of an role, which I do primarily, where management expert comes in, also technology aspects comes in, right? So you can look for a lot of frameworks or a lot of certification, let's say, from which one talk about ISO 27001, which is information security management system certifications, which basically focuses on how information systems are managed, kept secured, and then again revolved and keep continuously in a nutshell are secured. So that's one of the leading certification. A lot of organizations provides that. It's primarily, one is BSI, the second one is Intertech, and a lot of certification bodies are there which gives these individual certifications. The second one is to look at is, again, if I talk about, if you are specifically looking for, let's say you want to work in fintech industry, I'm giving an example. Let's say you have studied finance, right? You understand how industry works and all, and these days it's booming fintech across in India, not in India, it's world, right? And when I look at from a fintech point of, wherever tech is there, right, you have to integrate cyber to it. And the point of is saying that cyber is not an option. Why it's not option? Way back when we used to look at cyber, it was a support service. But now the landscape is changed. It's bigger a boardroom area. Whenever a boardroom happens, there is a topic which talks about cyber. Cyber investment has increased drastically. That's why cyber is again a bigger boom in that sector, which again gives these you two flavors, right? Either you can took from a management point of view, whether you want to cover all those board aspects and all. The second one is you wanted to be in technology niche, and then there are certifications which we topped off. Once you are clear, you can good to start with.
So, according to you, what is the ideal career pathway for students interested in the cybersecurity space and they aren't sure how to test the security of a specific machine? So, what would you suggest they to learn and practice?
uh, Krish, I think we covered this. This is the same thing where we are talking about the security testing or security curriculum of it, where they can focus if they are pretty much interested in this side domain, which I can take out, right? From a security testing point of view, how to identify system, how to break system, how to go into systems, right? It can be any system from which are digitally connected. So the first and basic ways to learn more about it, and once you are confident, you can opt for CE, certified ethical hacker, which is in curriculum itself, which talks about all these areas, where they talk about Linux system, there we talk about different operating systems, their vulnerabilities, different technologies which we talk about, like web technologies, web 1.2.0, those kinds of technology. So that is the curriculum which is covered, and they can look into that if they don't want to, right? Because CI is costly from a monetary point of view. They can look into the lot of YouTube videos, a lot of LinkedIn learnings, and a lot of other learnings are there, while which they can read more about it. You don't just have to get certified, right? As soon as you are having that knowledge and you can make those learnings in a practical manner, or you can try that from an hands-on learning point of view, it's okay. You can look at from the CEH module, where you can learn on these processes.
So, in the entire session, we've talked about various technologies. So, what is your opinion on Web 3.2 in terms of data security and data collection? The security consultant.
It's very tricky to talk about that because it's not yet implemented. And again, if it's again a notion, right? I know a lot of blogs, a lot of videos are covered from Web 3.0. And so for the audience, right, who don't know it's Web 3.0, just let me give you a quick 1.2, 1.0, 2.0, 3.0. Earlier, way back before 2004, right, there was a major information content on the internet was static. It was just predominantly controlled, tracked by organizations. It's a very static pages. Let's talk about Wikipedia, right? An organization use put on content, that's okay. After that, 2004, the internet got revolutionized. Everything happens, right? Big platforms, social networking platforms comes into and play, and then it became a collaboration where organizations are also putting content. A lot of content creator across, they are also putting content. So there are platforms where we can post. So that was happening till now. Now what Web 3.0 is trying to do, they want to make this decentralized, where there is no CEO of the company. When I say that, right, when I say it's a decentralized, anyone can put any content. There is no restriction of that. And the major the issue which address is the control of the data. What you can control, quality can control from an individual user point of view. You have your own privacy, you can look at it. But having it's and decentralized in Web 3.0, which is focusing on majorly, you don't have to reveal your original identity, right? If I talk about identity from that point of view, if I don't know legitimate user, you have your virtual identity, which they spoke of how they works. But if I don't know from security point of view, again, it's not into play. It's again needs to be detailedly study, done a lot of research on that, but it will open new areas from security point of view as well, which needs to be tackled by technology and new innovations in that field. So that's my take, but again, it's still in theory and still in process. So we have to look this space like how it comes out and what are the various security and privacy concerns we will look in from a decentralization point of view. That's I'm focusing on that word, that decentralization, right? Because everything will be decentralized. So if whatever we talked of from identity point of view, how to go and track someone user, which I talked about monitoring point of view, the point which I have to link dot from the start, which I talked about, right? How much I can monitor. If everything is decentralized, how will I monitor? So that's where blockchain comes in. They will be having their own ways, but yeah, we have to look that space now. I'm also waiting.
Sir, as you mentioned, the viruses are getting advanced and undetectable day by day. And cyber criminals are also creating advanced viruses day by day, sometimes even writing them from scratch and by passing antivirus that work on OS concept of fingerprint and hash checking. So how would you suggest we can be safe from them?
Krish, I will say invest in a good antivirus will be a better way. Looking into the use cases which you are looking at is, again, if I repeat, like you want a safe browsing, you can have safe browsing plugins. I think Chrome has started supporting it. Chrome has their own extension which helps you to look it from a secure browsing point of view. That's one of the aspect. A lot of antivirus covers these as password manager as well. They give you a bouquet of service for a nominal charge where you have these set of services. So while, if I talk about to your question, right, while this malware game itself is getting more sophisticated and more, a lot of viruses are coming. So from that point of view, antivirus systems are also getting more stronger in that case, right? They have a play and plugin from AI point of view these days. The agent which runs, when I say agent is your antivirus file which you install on your system. It is also in a self-learning mode. It basically scans your device, understand what can go wrong, and then flag it. It learns about your device. That's where AI and ML comes in. So all these getting all these systems are getting more sophisticated to cater to these cases. So you don't have to worry on like which what is the feature and functionality of antivirus. You can just look at the service and use case, or any in the audience, right? What use case they want to use for, let's say safe browsing, or they want to have an endpoint and encryption. They want to use, let's say they want to protect your mobile devices as well, because we do a lot of banking transactions on our mobiles as well. And again, Android is again a bigger concern just due to the open source nature of it. But again, having a good antivirus uh, prevents the probability, and again lowers the game.
So, sir, we have talked about how cybersecurity is and what all it is, and you have immense experience in working in the big force, and you were an NMIMS student. So, sir, what are the advantages we, as a student of NMIMS, have when you step out in this highly competitive world?
That's okay. So from that point of view, I think the one point of MBA Tech course itself is they do a lot of revamps every year. based on industry standard. Let's say I have heard of, right, they have introduced data science and AI as well in BTech, which is again a bigger demand, just to bridge the gap from a skill point of view in what industry is required. So that's the great way to learn, and exposure is immense. These which helped me in MIMS. MBA Tech specifically has this curriculum where you have to undergo after BTech 2 months internship in technology domain and 4 months internship in management domain. So I think this can give you a more about how actually corporate works when you go straight out of college. So this will absolutely give you that edge connecting to industry or corporates.
What is the one piece of advice that you would like to give the audience to the audience?
Okay, so I will say always be curious. I think curiosity can do wonders. No question is a stupid question. Always ready to ask, and that's, I think we can wrap off on that note.
So I personally learned a lot from this session, especially that what you told about protecting our personal data. It was a fantastic and educational session. We appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. I would like to thank Mr. Karan Dubey on behalf of our entire Saturday 10 a.m. team and student community for taking this precious time to interact with our students.
Thank you, Krishan. Thank you, team. I think it's a wonderful forum to address a lot of concerns on a lot of concerns and a lot of way forward on various topics. And I'm glad that you picked up this topic on cybersecurity and making our audience more aware and more secure. Thanks. It's a great effort. I really like this conversation and happy learning, and keep more learning about cyber. In case if anyone has any doubt, feel free to reach me on LinkedIn. Happy to help.
Thank you so much, sir. I too learned a lot about having a good password, that it's important to be safe on the web, and what are the career options that I can have in cybersecurity. And at the end, we would like to extend a gratitude to Dr. Akshay Malhotra, our director, sir, our faculty mentors, Dr. Smita Bonde and Harshil Kotwal, sir, for the constant support and guidance.
Absolutely. That is, I think, astonishing that all the faculties, respected faculties and director are taking this step. I think that's again is a very great advantage which you are talking of, right? Institution is taking such efforts. So all the best and good luck to you guys.
Finally, we would really like to express our heartfelt gratitude to all the attendees of today's session. Thank you for keeping us company and helping to make this a successful event. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, team.